sound.
Live from Zoom, it's National Storytellers Night. To be a part of the live Zoom audience, all you have to do is sign up at newwritermedia.com. Best of all, it's free. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Boop. Now, without further ado, here's the meeting. I want to welcome everyone to National Storytellers Night, and I want to also welcome it's kind of a San Jose State reunion night because we have in our live Zoom audience a lot of people from San Jose State. But in the meantime, I want to introduce our guest for today, our presenter, Jay Clendenin. Go away, Jay.
Hey, thanks. Here,
Go away. No, take it away.
Take it away.
Take it away.
Okay, take it away. Hey,
I'm going away to owning the screen here. How about that?
There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
Good save.
All right. Here we go. I'll be using Keynote this evening. If you haven't played with it, it's a great app. So Jay Clendenin, I'm a class of 98. That's how far back I go. And a quick roundup of my career thus far. I left to do my 5th internship the summer after graduation at the Hartford Courant, and then they kept me. I was a staffer there for almost 4 years, worked through 9/11, realized I wanted to get out of Hartford and move on to bigger and better, and I moved to New York. Lived in Brooklyn, as everyone does when they move to New York. I was there for almost a year, and my now wife got a full-time job at the Washington Times in DC, and so then I moved to DC. And I moved to DC not to become a political photographer, but as happens in DC, you become a political photographer, and I did. And so I'm kind of starting from there with photos and kind of showing how, as I left the Current, I had started doing a lot of feature work and portraits. But when you move to DC, you kind of get sucked into, life as a political photographer and covering politics. I went through the 2004 election, came back, covered a lot of the White House under Bush, and then a lot of national news. This was the Clinton Library opening in Little Rock. Unfortunately, I did a lot of funerals.
Are you dropping pictures? Am I?
Yeah, we're not getting pictures.
I'm not getting feed. I'm so sorry, Jay. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, wait. Do you see me?
I see your name and your at. I haven't seen a slideshow. Is it only me?
Hold on.
No, I'm seeing the same thing.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Aaron.
How about now? Hold on.
Still no. Oh, there we are. I see the slideshow now. There it is.
Wait, hold on, I want to see if this works. So are you seeing a change in photos?
I see Nader.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. So I'm gonna have to go back here then. All right, let's
Yeah. Start from the top. My bad. Holy shit. I was like, what happened?
All right, hold on here.
All right.
I thought you were just going on about stuff with the
So that's funny. So it was showing you it wouldn't do the slideshow. So you're just seeing the screen now with like the one image in the middle, right?
I see your whole keynote presentation right now.
Your desktop.
Yeah, your desktop.
Let's see if I can figure out how to just do the image. Let's see, slide only. No?
My gosh, Rumsfeld.
Go back there. Go same place.
Wait, go back to here.
Yeah.
And then
Is there one that says
here we go. Nope, I said hide comments. It didn't work. Let's see. Hold on. So there we go.
Yeah, there's
what
you want.
There we go.
All right.
There we go. All right.
There we go.
Good enough. Okay. So yeah, that's the gist. So a lot of national news. based in DC. I'm still doing politics, but I'm traveling for stuff. I did a lot of funerals, unfortunately, at Arlington. I got to cover the start of a certain political career.
Wow.
As a young senator, and this was a favorite from my last year in DC, where the square off started between the two big Dems of Clinton and Obama. And then I got lucky enough to go back after I'd started at the LA Times. I basically told them, listen, I put in all those years. I want to go back for the inauguration. So I got to go back for Obama's inauguration. But then, the portraits became my thing. And they had been for a while. And I really liked doing film and large format. And I had started working with 4x5 a lot at the Hartford Courant. And so at the Times, they really brought me in to do portraits, and film became a big part of what I did, just because it was so different from the way the world had moved. And in dealing with celebrities, especially of a certain age, they very much appreciate that it's a big film camera. It's like it's a conversation piece when you come in the room. And somebody like even Johnny Depp, who's not that old, but old enough, he's been around, been shot by some of the biggest. He was into the camera. So it becomes a part of the conversation and shooting. Then when you get like a legend.
Tell the truth. It was that David Burnett influence in that Aero Ektar, right?
Yeah, that's funny. I always love his lens. It's like, that's the one thing I'm jealous of with his gear. He always traveled light with the Speed Graphic, and mine was a Zone 6 field camera. So mine did not work as conveniently as his. Polaroid was one of my favorite, Type 55, where you get
Jeff Bridges. Holy shit.
It's the best. And then you get the negative, which you can scan, and you'll see there's not much of a difference between what my negative actually is and what the print was. And that's a big thing at the LA Times, was we didn't Photoshop. So any of the falling apart of the neg here was just a natural, disaster of the film itself. This was a follow-up to Type 55 called New 55. And I eventually stopped using it, and I'll show you in a couple images here why. But you can kind of see how you lose a little bit of the emulsion. There are some leaks. Like, there's just a lot of issues with that particular film. The emulsion never really stayed well. And this image was the end for me, because when I'm doing these portraits, these portraits are usually under 10 minutes, and I'm squeezing off a 4x5 film image in the middle of shooting digital images in those 10 minutes. So I get 2 frames. So if the film's doing this, I can't risk it anymore. So I kind of gave up after that. And this is regular, just color film, which, I had plenty of. In 2016, I got an 8x10 camera, and it happened to be my old editor at the Hartford Courant who kind of pushed me into 4x5 at the time. And he passed away, and he had wanted me to have this camera. So I got the camera from his wife, and I started using it. I call it, this is, if you've seen the hashtag, I use Big Bruce Camera. That was for Bruce. And this was my Olympians project, and I've done the Olympians since 2008. I don't know if I'm going to do them this year. I'm making some pitches to see, but this is paper negative, and it's a great way to shoot when you have a budget, meaning you can't spend money. This is the way to do it. I'm shooting straight to black and white photo paper. You go for the lowest contrast, go for a gloss, because you have to flatbed scan it. So if you get any texture, it's horrible to scan, because you pick up all the luster bumps. So I'm shooting straight to paper, and I process it in trays in my bathroom like a black and white print. Or as I moved on and started doing more, I would take it to the photo lab, and they just run it through the machine, and it comes out. It's a print, so it's like $8 a pop. But it's great. It's a low contrast, like a 2, and it works really well, especially on overcast days. Yeah. So I started doing it for the Olympics. This is the project that placed in World Press that year, and then I came back and I started doing a lot more portraits with it. So now I'm dragging the 8x10 camera into the hotels for my 10-minute shoots. Mm-hmm. But the results are awesome. And like this, you know, it was a good example of like, I know how the camera works and I know what it can do. And I know this particular row of trees on his property. I knew I needed him there. So I made a point to say, oh, I want to go where the row of trees is. So we went, did that shoot, and then following in like, you know, kind of our traditional photojournalism, he wanted to take us around. So for an hour, I'm driving around shooting pictures with Clint Eastwood on his ranch. He's 90 here doing, you know, climbing over the fence. The guy, I mean, this guy is like full of energy, and he just made another movie, by the way. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I'm pretty amazed that he's still doing it. But I also set up a second backdrop. This is the easy color one. You know, I knew what he was wearing. I had multiple backdrops, made sure I covered myself. This is back to 8x10 color, another hotel shoot, willing participant. I photographed Kristen Stewart a bunch of times now. And, you know, again, a lot of these people don't remember my name necessarily, but they remember kind of like this look, and they remember the camera. So when they walk in, they'll be like, oh, I remember this. So that's always kind of fun after all these years. Doing a little music. I'm pretty proud of this one. If you go back and you Google portraits of Bono, I would say at least in the last 20 years, you probably won't find any without his glasses on. This was a coup of mine. I have one frame and it's a Polaroid print. That's it. After that, he was like, back on. We keep shooting after that. And again, this is the Type 55, but this is literally the end of my stock. So this is 2013 maybe, and my film was all from probably 2007, 28, somewhere in there.
Pretty old stock.
This is 8x10 again. Got to photograph Lady Gaga. It was pretty awesome. We were supposed to we had pitched the idea of just doing Stephanie as Stephanie, not the character of Gaga. And they said, oh yeah, we like that idea. And then she walks out and she's basically Marilyn Monroe. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I got to do it at the house, which was awesome, but I didn't make it past the garage. So I basically set up a full studio in the garage, and you know, that was the 8x10 camera. I do black and white film, some color film, and then I did a paper negative. Again, one of the issues with paper negatives is you're missing that yellow layer, and so a lot like a tintype, it shifts skin tones. So a couple of people online, and I felt bad after this, were like, why is she in blackface? Because of the shift. And I had to be like, no, it's just the print. It's my fault.
It's orthochromatic. It's not panchromatic.
Well, yeah, one of the downsides. But listen, I'm going for the art.
Yeah.
You know, some just color film. Jared is like the mix of like music and acting, kind of like Gaga. And then I like showing this one because, you know, Olivia Rodrigo is a new pop star, but she's a kid. You know, she's, I think, just turning 19. She has acne. Like, this is real person here. This is a real kid. And we run photos like this at the LA Times because we're not photoshopping. And that's a big difference between working for the Times and working for magazines. So I'm going to shift. I show this series with Jamie Lee because this is a combination of kind of our photojournalism background of hustling and making lemonade out of lemons, as well as relationships and developing relationships over time. I've been photographing Jamie for a couple of years, running into her different things. And this came from the night before at the Oscars. I'd been joking about it as I've seen her over the year, like, hey, if something happens. And the night before, I basically said, hey, tomorrow we should do a morning after. I'm available. And she just smiled, got in the elevator. 10 a.m. the next morning, she's texting me, can you be at the Beverly Hills Hotel at 11? I'm like, yep. Racing to the hotel.
Be there at 10 to set up.
But it's very bare bones. You know, I didn't bring a lot of gear because I didn't know if the hotel was going to be okay with it. I really didn't know. So this was just, you know, a small Godox strobe, stand, softbox, like really basic. And the hotel staff met me at the curb, walked in. They were excited. They were helping left and right. We moved people. It was great. So it worked out.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of fun. We really made a point that we wanted to be in the same arena as the Terry O'Neill photo of Faye Dunaway from Herwin, but we wanted to have a little fun with it. She's a much different, Jamie's a much lighter and more fun personality, I think. And so we played with the cafe, what do you call it? Not cafe au lait. I guess it's just a latte. And I wanted to have a little fun with it. So she really got into it, and I think this is the photo we really showcased. And I had to get in the LA Times and the New York Times, which I got a little grief from my editors. And I was like, guys, come on. It's the New York Times. Like, this is the paper of record. We're up there, but we're not the New York Times. So I wanted to make sure I had both to showcase the size of this. It was a big night. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the fun shoots of like hustling and knowing people. This is, I didn't work a lot with anybody on the shoots. I would have assistants occasionally, not that often, but I didn't have designers with me. There weren't art directors with me. Once in a while I'd get some notes. Somebody say, "Oh, hey, we were thinking," and I would always say, "Oh, that's a great idea. Are you coming along to help?" And they say, "Oh, no, we're too busy." I'll go, "Okay, well, I'll try." That's all I can do, right? I can just try. So a lot of these things, that's how it works. I'll pitch an idea, and it's usually not the subject. It's usually a publicist who will say yay or nay, and then we move from there. So this, I wanted to bring my big camera and do some film. She was on fire. This is for the Queen's Gambit and Anya Taylor-Joy. And now you'll notice she's absolutely on fire. She's in every movie. Furiosa's coming out. Oh my God, I can't wait. So we did a bunch with the 8x10. It really makes unique images. It's a lot of fun. Wow. And then I had multiple setups. I had color lights, I had my prisms, and I'm trying to like pull out all the tricks, get as much as I possibly can. Because what I've learned over the years is that a lot of the people who have big years, we don't get back to them, or they don't get back to us as award season comes around. There's a lot of struggle trying to cram in more photo shoots as awards ramp up. So I want to make sure I get as much as I can from every shoot. That's usually 2 to 3 setups. So same with this, we're doing Ted Lasso new season, and I know I'm shooting a bunch of the cast in a hotel. So I've got to figure out all these ideas. So I come up with a bunch. I do something with what's there. I bring some props, and I'm not Carrot Top. I'm not bringing props to everything I shoot, but if I can plan ahead and I have a few days notice, I'm going to try and see what I can come up with. So this was a fun way to play out their characters on Ted Lasso. And they were an on again, off again relationships. So that was fun. And then just a, kind of a classic, let's make a mess.
Cool. That's awesome.
And then we do singles. So it's like, I do that for, 7 to 10 minutes. And then I got to get a couple singles. And then, Keely's gone or blanking. She leaves. He comes back in and do more. Get a smile. Okay, done. Thank you. Jeremy Swift comes in. He plays the manager on the team. I brought soccer balls for him because I knew it would be overdone with Jason Sudeikis. So we did some fun with that, a couple ideas. And then I made a pitch to the designer, and I said, hey, because Jason had just shaved his mustache. And I knew that coming into this, and it's like, that's what makes him Ted Lasso. So I said, why don't I get a bag of mustaches, and we'll do him, like, this will be a concept of him testing mustaches for the next season. So we did a whole panel, and I shot like 16 of these things, and then made it work with the design. So it's like a fun way to make a cohesive package. Same with the inside. We do a second photo, second idea, play around with that, and then they make that work with the design. So it's
Hey Jay, how many photos did you deliver from that day? Like, in your mind, did you ship 200? Did you ship 20 that you knew were bangers, and you're just like, these are the ones?
I do a pretty loose edit
Yeah.
because I just don't want to have to keep going back to the well when they say, "Oh, wait, do you have this? Do you have looking left? Do you have looking right? Do you have, you know?" So when I do my edit, I pretty much only leave out real losers, like
Yeah.
eyes closed, like, I shook too much or, whatever. So from just Jason, probably 100 photos, maybe.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm also
Yeah.
not shooting a ton. I mean, that's the reality. Like,
You got 20 minutes or whatever, right?
yeah, the period is so short that I am not producing a ton of images. So I'm pretty generous. Like, I'm not, there's some photographers I know that are very tight. Like, they're like, no, I only want to give what I want them to use. And I really feel, and this has come over 25 years of doing it, that I'm collaborative. Like, I like to say, like, none of these photos are Jay Clendenin photos. Like, it's our photo. Like, I'm doing it with Kate Winslet. Like, I spent 20 minutes with her, but it's a action-packed 20 minutes. Like, it's nonstop. And we're just burning through ideas. We did a bunch in the hotel room. And I said, God, there's a great elevator. Can we just, she's like, oh yeah, I love the elevator. So then we go make a cool photo in the elevator. And we're making it together, Simon Pegg, same thing. Like, we did a bunch of kind of standard pose photos. And then I said, doesn't this look cool over here? He's like, oh, I love it. So then we make a cool photo over here. This is a classic example of the publicist not getting us cleared with a hotel room. So I show up at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, and they're like, yeah, we don't have a room for you. Where are you going to shoot? And I said, oh, can I just do it in the pool area? So we like picked a spot over on the side. Thankfully, I had a background. I mean, I knew he was going to have a solid, but she didn't tell me what color. So I brought a couple ideas. This works out.
Yeah.
I love showing this because this is part of the fun. All right. I know what happened. I'm Jay Clendenin.
I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is the cattle prod.
Oh, God. Part of the fun, right?
Yeah.
So
You met a lot of friends at this point.
yeah, it's been a good ride. So the other thing I do is I use a tilt shift lens a lot. Most people know it for architecture. I've been using it for portraits for literally 20 years, and I've actually done a certain amount of documentary reportage work with it too. I did a whole series after the Virginia Tech shootings in DC because I was still there. And it was so saturated with photographers. I mean, people just came in from all over the country for this, for obvious reasons. I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying there was a lot of photography going on, and I decided to make mine different. And I used my tilt shift, black and white, very different look. And a lot of people don't like it. They complain, they're like, oh, it's too manipulative, and I'm like, listen, it's all in camera. That's the difference. I'm not photoshopping anything. This isn't done in Photoshop. It's in my lens. I'm choosing all of these moves. So I do a lot of that still too. There's also a lot of serendipity that happens. I see wallpaper. I say, oh my God, this is amazing. The wife's in the other room. She says, tell him about the jacket. And I said, you have a jacket like this? And he goes, oh yeah, I do. Get the jacket. So, the great Tim Conway.
Unbelievable.
Hair.
Oh.
Come on. How can I not have fun with this? And the movie is called Bad Hair. It's a great, crazy, funny. It's a funny movie, like a horror flick kind of thing. Again, ad-libbing on the spot. This is the Chateau Marmont, big fancy, hotel in West Hollywood. We didn't have clearance to shoot inside. This is on the street outside. Bring a couple props, make it work. I bring a lot of backgrounds. We're in a hotel. I shot 3 times this week in the Four Seasons. I was not going to use their walls again. This is a fabric that I go to the Fabric Mart in downtown LA, and I buy bolts of fabric and make them backgrounds. Now the problem is you only get 4.5 feet wide. That's it for the width. So it's a little tight, but you can make it work. Sometimes people don't want to leave their studios. All right, let's do it. I'm gonna try to have fun. Let's make the tall guy taller. make the broody guy broodier. I like showing this to show you what a typical photo shoot can be like. This is a little rush, but this is the idea. I'm going to run through it and then we'll talk about the whole speed. This is the Four Seasons Hotel. Famous guy. And most are, oh, this is stop, 4x5 in the middle. Move outside. Second scenario, lit. Get a couple of those. Turn off the light. Third look. Guy knows what he's doing. That's the whole take. You'll see 3 tests at the front with the assistant. Up at the top right here, you'll see 12:08, 27 seconds. That's the start of the shoot. 12:12, 27 seconds. That's the end of the shoot. Just under 4 minutes. This is not super normal, but it's not unheard of.
I do a lot.
But it takes a lot of like thinking on your feet too, is more than you would think for a portrait photographer. I mean, like a general portrait photographer, and I think that's where maybe your photojournalism background comes into some of these things too, is having that ability to think on your feet.
Well, and I will say that there's a certain amount of technical that you have to be dialed in with. In that, you'll notice when they've moved a little bit and they're in that sun that exposure is gonna change, or the light got moved and so it's changing what's happening. Like you have to kind of know it without having to chimp every frame, because that's crazy fast. And he doesn't mess around. Like he's like. And you can see every frame is a usable photo. Like he's no slouch at this, and that helps when you do a certain level of talent. Like they know what they're doing, and they know their favorite look, their favorite side. And if you don't know it, they're going to tell you usually. So another conversion of a hotel room. I walk in, blank canvas. All right, I'm going to black out the background. I see this chair. I hate the chair. Go find a better chair, bring it all in, make some fun photos.
Yeah. Wow.
So the other thing I started doing, I do a lot of the film festivals for the last 10 years. Started at Sundance, got to do Toronto Film Festival, started doing the Comic-Con in San Diego, and then I did South by 1 year, loved it. It was probably my favorite. So, we have a lot of fun with the Polaroids. We started having people sign them, and they loved signing them because we would put them out on the bar so people would see them and they'd get excited about participating. So we did this 1 year. This is when he was filming Joker, and he was not looking healthy. I mean, he is as thin and gaunt as he was in the film. So we did all that the next year, and Jason Sudeikis, again, he's one of my favorites. The next year we did Polaroids again. And it's fun to watch people when they remember. So they're like, oh yeah, I remember last year's. And they kind of do something similar again. Jamie Lee again. And this was, now that Joker is coming out, they came back and you see how much healthier he looks compared to that first shot. So it's not all singles. I still have to do some, pairs and group shots, and they're not my favorite. I'll openly admit that. Because it's hard, they're a much harder shot to make when you have to like juggle personalities, you have to juggle framing, you have to juggle who's in front, who's in back. But if you can align all the parts, sometimes
brilliant.
Sometimes it works out well.
Get everyone into sync.
Yeah. So some of these are like, this is a press junket. They wanted to do something different with a car, which was great. So we're in the garage of the Four Seasons instead of a room at the Four Seasons. Now we're back in a room at the Four Seasons. So it's a lot of, this is pretty much the only portrait I'll ever talk about that was my least favorite experience in my 16 years at the Times. One of my heroes, this is Jane's Addiction, and they were probably, actually, I'm not all of them, just Dave Navarro and Perry Farrell were probably the least nice people I've ever photographed. It was shocking how obnoxious they were. It was really a bummer. And I swear to God, they're the only people I'll talk poorly about because they were such dicks. Aside from that, I did what I could. I did it as quickly as I could. I thanked them and I packed my shit up and got out of there.
I got kicked off stage at Coachella because of Perry Farrell.
I don't doubt. I'm surprised
He's just a shithead, is what I've gathered.
It was very unfortunate. We booked this shoot at this hotel because it was like a mile or a mile and a half from his house, and he was an hour and a half late.
What?
That's only part of it. Anyways, it was not fun, but I did what I could, right?
Yeah, man.
On the other hand, one of the nicest bands I've ever photographed, Coldplay.
Yeah, for sure.
This was a real hustle. We were supposed to do it inside Jimmy Kimmel's Theater, which is this black wall on the left here, and we didn't sign the proper permit or something, and they wouldn't let me. Like, they literally kicked me out of the building. So we did it in the alleyway next door. Thank God for battery power, right? This was a serious rally here. Great guys. Another one of my favorites, no doubt. I just posted this again on Instagram because they just played Coachella. I was so jealous. I wanted to go. Again, real fun opportunity to like relive my 90s. South by Southwest. This was the gang from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Wow.
At the film festival, I'm doing a lot of cast photos, which again are not fun, but we got to do them. So I want to have fun with it. This is my favorite to like everybody looking in a different direction.
Yeah, that's neat.
And it's fun. Like, there's an actual moment, like one frame in the middle of all the chaos, which is nice. Same kind of thing. Like, just do your thing, in 2 frames, you get something, you hope. It's always fun when you get something like this that has the potential for going viral because we were the only ones who had this and they immediately reposted it, which is always great. Unfortunately, most of the time they don't put the photographer's name on it, but that's a whole side story. Again, group shots, got to do them. I like showing this near the end here just to kind of give you an idea of doing the group shot, which again, I think is painful, but we all are kind of suffering together because we all know how hard it is, but we got to do it. And then we do quick singles of everybody to have something to go alongside this as it goes to print.
Yeah. So
what I did with this one, and I started doing at Comic-Con, is at Comic-Con years ago, I built what I called a color booth. I basically created a little space with a reflective plexiglass like this, and I had people do a motion, and I just motor drived it and made a GIF out of it. So with these comedy actors, this is 130 frames, and then I edit it together, and I still do it in Photoshop because I'm just a Photoshop geek. And one of the guys I work with that did video, he would often do it in Premiere, but I'm still the Photoshop geek. So wait, let's see if I can move to the next one here. Oh, hold on. Come on. Go to the next. All right. Now it's going to get buggy. Hold on. I'm going to go to navigators. So just showing you kind of the variety here.
Oh, that's cool.
And this is one of the things where I get to actually direct a bit and kind of give them what I want them to do. I'd seen her chewing gum before she got on set, and she spit it out, and I said, "Hey, let's do some gum."
Awesome.
And these are fun. Again, it's using stills, and the best part is all of these stills can be used as photos.
And this was for South by Southwest as your client?
No, this is different. This is still LA Times. This is for their comedy roundtables. And then I always pick this for the final group photo. It was like a last day on set of filming a Scandal. And then this is kind of the end of the show here. So, I'll leave that up for a sec here. So I do a lot with when we're doing those roundtables where we have groups come in or at the film festivals. I know I have such a limited amount of time with people, but I want to get as much content as I can. So everything is dialed in and set up so that I can do multiple scenarios within 15 feet. So I'll have a big backdrop, usually 2 lighting scenarios on it, and then I'll have at least a second scenario that in this case often is a table or some other individual lighting source for singles. So it's really about getting the bang for the buck, in the short amount of time. So
Jay, who's your absolute favorite person you've ever photographed?
oh boy.
I mean, you've met like fucking everybody, it feels like. So like at this point, I know it's a personal preference, but like top of the top, who's the best? What was your most favorite experience?
I think they're all good experiences. I mean, and like they have varying reasons why, obviously, but like I think I always end up saying that the ones that are my favorites are the ones where they like my ideas. So they like my ideas and they're willing participants. One of my favorites that it's actually not in this slideshow. Zach Galifianakis, he's down here, right here on the yellow. So this was right after Hangover, and he did like a serious movie after that where he's kind of a therapist, I think, and he was still a little overweight, and I had seen, looking at his face, I imagined there's a famous Joseph Karsh black and white photo of Ernest Hemingway, big fishnet sweater, and I just saw his face in that, and I thought, shit, I want to make that photo. So I had a couple of weeks of lead time on it, and I pitched it to my editor, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds cool." And I went to multiple thrift stores, and of all places, I was visiting my dad. He lived up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I went into a thrift store in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I found the closest I could get to the roll neck sweater, the fisherman sweater, and the catch was it fit me. I'm a much slighter guy than he was at the time, and I was like, well, this is the closest I've got. So I truck it back to LA. We go into the shoot. He basically walks in. He has nobody with him. There's no publicist. There's no agent. It's just Zach. And he walks in. He's like, "Hey!" And I'm like thrown off. Like, are you alone? He's like, "Yeah, it's just me. Is that a problem?" I'm like, no, this is great. Come on in. And I pitched the idea, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, hey man, you're the artist."
Oh my
God. It filled my heart to like have this kind of acceptance and excitement to like, I'm putty in your hands. Let's do it. And we shot, 3 scenarios. I did that, a couple ideas with lighting for that. And then I did this kind of goofy one of, this is him laying down on the yellow backdrop, and I put the daisies over his eyes. And I had a ladder, and again, he's laying down, so he kind of fills out a little bit. And I had to the ladder's like pinching his but he was like, all right, we'll make it work.
We'll just do it.
It was awesome.
Oh
So like
that's incredible.
That's one of those things where like I love that he was so willing to do it with me. And that's why I always say about collaboration. George Clooney is another real easy answer because he's just a pro. It's very like Robert Downey Jr. where Robert Downey Jr. is very high energy. Like he's coming in 100 miles an hour all the time. So it's a little harder to steer him, but the same kind of like, let's do it kind of attitude. And George Clooney was like that. He's much more mellow, but we're here to do a job. Let's do it. Let's have fun, So I think that's always my answer. Like the people that are willing to play a little bit and like,
love it.
Collaborate.
That's so brilliant.
So Jay, I want to kind of go back a little bit on kind of like where you got started. Like what was it about photojournalism that piqued your interest?
Okay, I'm going to jump out of here now.
Okay.
Jay, that was brilliant too. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, kind of the whole reason I've stayed in photojournalism, and I always say I came back to it in essence coming to the LA Times from freelance world, I love the daily challenge. I mean, that was the excitement in college, something new every day. Back in college, it was mostly like sports and news, like, getting your blood running and the excitement of those kind of things. And then I just kind of shifted over time into enjoying a little more time with somebody, kind of making portraits, doing feature stories. I convinced the Hartford Courant, this little paper in Connecticut, which was one of the best photo papers in the country. I convinced them to send me to Burning Man for 10 days. Like, how ridiculous is that? So 1999, I'm at Burning Man for 10 days from like before it opened till after it ended. It was crazy.
Spiritual.
Yeah. And that's always excited me about this business and being able to do so many different things and explore other people's lives and then have this record afterwards to show other people. Like, how cool is that? It still excites me. I mean, I'm not doing it as much now being freelance. I'm like being a little more judicious about where I pursue assignments. But I still have the curiosity, which has always been in me.
I was going to say, it's something that it's like, if you haven't gone through leaving a place, it really, to me, it personifies like an experience, right? And so having watched from afar, it's like seeing your time at the LA Times and to witness that, I feel so privileged to have seen the kind of experience of creative that you've been able to bestow upon them. But the fun thing now, I would imagine, is that the decisions you're making are much more targeted. You don't have to do it in 5 minutes and worry about if Donnie Jr.'s ready to go or not. Like, you get to kind of make photos now that are probably more important, so to speak, to you personally than they were before. Is that maybe accurate or no?
I think that's fair. I think, I'm in this transition period where, I'm kind of reestablishing myself in the freelance world, and I still am most interested in staying in entertainment because I've committed the most time to that in my career. And the connections and the people I know and work with. But it is true. I'm kind of kicking around some of the personal project ideas I kind of had, and I'm trying to figure out, one, if I can actually convince somebody to pay me to do some of it. But even if not, I can invest a little more time and some money into doing some of these ideas. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I got to make a living, and I'm still going to pick up weddings here and there, and I'm still going to be doing things that, pay the bills. But I'm still sticking to photography, and I think that's been a great privilege for all this time, because I've watched a lot of my buddies who got out of the business because it gets exhausting and hard, and if you don't land that perfect scenario, it's hard to like raise kids and buy a house and do all these things that like is supposed to be part of our normal plan in life, like the steps that you do. And I've definitely been very privileged to be able to make all that stuff happen. And I wasn't expecting to go freelance again as I turned 50. Like, it's a little shocking. And my kid is going to college in the fall, like all these like big life things happening at the same time. I mean, it's a little off-putting if I really like say it out loud.
Yeah.
But I think my personality and like just the way I've carried myself this entire time since starting in San Jose, I'm a pretty self-motivated and like persistent guy, and that's part of the fun for me. I mean, it kind of goes back to what Doug's asking about, like the excitement of like that's what got me into it, was the challenges of doing this, and then the excitement of being able to create and make a living with my camera. For God's sake, this is ridiculous. Like, it was such a privilege just to be able to do that.
pay us.
And I feel lucky every day. I mean, it's awesome, you know.
So what led up to you going to San Jose State? What was how did you get to San Jose State?
I was finishing high school in LA, in Southern California, in the Valley, and I knew I didn't have money for the college situation, so I had no plan to go anywhere other than the local community college, Pierce College, and I just got myself set up for that. So I got in the honors program, and mainly because they promised like you can get into the UCs easiest this way. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do that. But I had no idea what the hell I was going to do. And because I had done like AP history classes and that was my favorite and I did well, I was like, well, I guess I'll be a history teacher. Like that's all I really know. That's what you do in college. And I was still doing photography. And the only person who came to my school and did like a career day with us, and I always remember it, he worked at Northridge Studios, which was here in the Valley in Northridge, and they did like senior portraits and like family portraits, and it was a very, I mean, I'll say cheesy, you know, straightforward Olin Mills kind of old school portraits, and that's all I knew about making a career, a job out of photography. So I was like, okay, so I definitely am not doing that. So I guess I have to do this history teacher thing or whatever. So I went to Pierce College. I did a year of this honors program, knocked out a bunch of lower division stuff, and I took photo classes. Well, I took all the photo classes. And then somebody said, hey, have you tried photojournalism? And I was like, what is that? And Pierce College, and it still has it. I'm happy I still help when I can. They had photojournalism, and they had a school paper, and they had all this great stuff. And I thought, no, I don't know what that is. That sounds cool. And they described kind of what you get to do. I was like, that sounds fun. And I went out on my first assignment. I tell this story all the time. It was Pierce was an ag school, agriculture, full farm, all this great stuff. Amazing. And I went up to the farm area, and they had a petting zoo. And that was my feature assignment. And I shot a petting zoo. I loved it. I was having a blast. I'm on my knees. The goats are all over me. They're like biting kids. It was the best. And I shot 4 rolls of film. It was ridiculous. Came back. I'm like excited. I'm processing my film. I'm drying my film. It was the best. I hadn't had so much fun doing photography. I never even thought that was something to do. And that was it. Off the races. I talked to the teacher. I said, wait, what is this? He's like, oh, we have photojournalism too, and then you can do some editing, and then, you know, you can do a degree at the Cal State system. So it was like UCLA off the plate. I don't give a shit. I'm done. And I found San Jose State and San Francisco State. And at the time, there were a bunch of us at Pierce. Actually, Aaron Swozy, who's still up in the room here. I don't know if he's on.
Is he on?
Aaron and I were at Pierce with Eric Gregorian, and there's another guy, Steve Keegan. We were all doing this photojournalism. I was a year behind all of them, and we knew that that was the next step. It was going to be probably San Francisco or San Jose, and at the time, I think we knew of John Lee, who's now a freelancer in San Francisco. He's killing it in food of all things. He done everything, and he had gone to San Jose, and he had been at another local community college out in Canyon Country, and we knew of him through someone else, and he was really good. And we're like, shit, if he's going to San Jose, like we should probably look at San Jose. And we went up there, and Eric Gregorian actually was the first to be enrolled, and we followed. So it was like, oh, and then the Northridge quake hit, and Eric was already set to go that fall of 94. And then I moved up with him, but I still had another semester at the city college before I could get into San Jose. It was a whole thing. And that was it. So we all as a group basically went to San Jose State. And then
you had McNay?
You guys
were McNay?
Correct. We had McNay, and that's what we had met. McNay, again, via John Lee. And at that time, Marcio Sanchez was there.
Yeah,
Marcio shot here in LA. Just won a Pulitzer.
So much love and appreciation to Marcio.
By the time you guys have gone there and been gone, like I came in right after you guys, and you guys were still legends. Like you guys people were still talking about you guys, and
to this day.
I mean, yeah, McNay. I mean, it was Kevin. It was Max. I mean,
Lexi, Kojo.
Yeah, all those people. They were sitting there would talk about just the whole group right before us, and I mean, and I had come up to not come up, but I'd gone to a couple of the photo nights and was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I like this. I love this atmosphere, and you guys, like I said, you guys were total legends by the time my class actually got there, and it was kind of nice to see that group of photographers go on and see like you guys were kind of an inspiration to the rest of us. And
I think it was fun too because we spread across the country. Like it was a pretty wild kind of a shotgun of where we all went and ended up. It was funny because like I never wanted to leave California, obviously. But I mean, hell, that's what made my career, leaving and getting a little more experience and, seeing a lot of good and horrific stuff over the years and, being able to, kind of try a little bit of everything. I mean, I kind of joke about it now. Like I literally have shot everything except for war. And I had interest in it, Nachtwey, like every book, every thing he spoke at, I was at, like that was like the idol, up on high. And for all of us, and I think Eric was one of the only ones who really went and covered overseas and did a lot of, he did a lot. He's done a bunch. And I mean, he won World Press. That was in Armenia. But it was during that time where he had covered the Iranian Revolution and covered a couple elections and like I mean he was out there and now he lives in Armenia and he's teaching and he shoots on occasion. He's done a few stories here and there, but it is wild. Like that's what I was saying. Like I feel so privileged that I'm still working with my camera and being able to pay a few bills at least for the next few months with my camera.
So what's the craziest assignment that you've been on?
What's funny? I don't know. Well, I'll say crazy in that it was such a wild experience and so much fun, but it really got buried. Very few people ever saw it. And the reason is it published the weekend of 9/11.
Oh.
And I'm saying it facetiously that it was so disappointing, but you get the point. Like it was something I'd worked on for months and then it just like it was never seen again. And then nobody even cared about the photos. It was a nudist colony camp in Eastern Connecticut. And it was great because most people had never heard of it. And they said, wait, where? I said, Connecticut. I had found this place and I made the pitch to my editor. And this is one of the things that kind of launched me in my 4x5. And I shot the whole thing in 4x5. And I did a sepia toning to the images. And, I just had a blast doing it. And one of the funny stories I tell is, my wife laughs at this. She had just come to the Current as an intern. And, for the record, she's not your average intern. She was not a 22-year-old that I was taking advantage of in any way. She's a couple of years older than me, for the record. This is a very mature relationship, totally above board.
20 years later, we're good.
Jay, you had that reputation before too, so that was the other reputation.
So, yeah, I want to make that clear for the record. Okay. So, I had we started dating in that summer, and I said, "Oh, hey, I'm going to work on my story tomorrow." She's like, what's your story? I said, "Oh, I'm going to the nudist camp." And she went, excuse me, what?" And I'm like, "No, it's really cool." So for the record, I, of all things, I wore a shirt. They made me be nude, but I wore a shirt, and it was the silliest thing because everything else was out. But I wore a shirt because I have a lot of moles, and I was freaked out that I was going to get cancer the minute I took my shirt off. So I wore a stupid shirt and I had a big sun hat on, walking around the 4x5. It was crazy. So I did this whole shoot. So she at one point says, "Can I go with you?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." So I drag her up there, and it was hilarious because she's super shy. Like, this is not her scene, but she's like, "All right, I can do this." Like, trying to like show me up. And so we have great portraits of each other in this lake that they have there.
Yeah.
And I made her play volleyball. So we played volleyball naked. It was an experience. And the photos, again, they're some of my favorite photos.
Yeah.
And the best part was, again, utilizing the tilts and shifts of the camera, I blurred everything.
Yeah.
So I blocked stuff. I blurred enough that there was a rack where you know where we're looking, but you don't see anything. Like, a little pat on my back here. I did a pretty good job where you don't see the stuff. But then, like I said, it never saw the light of day. I used to show it a lot in my portfolio. And then there ended up being a lot of controversy around like Jacques Sturgis, who had shot at a couple different kind of nudist colonies, actually not in the States, mostly overseas, but he shot a lot of kids, and it became this whole thing. And I
remember that. Yeah.
I shot a couple of kids in this kind of familial area, and then I started freaking out. I'm like, okay, wait, I don't want to be brought down with all the stuff that's going on. So I kind of stopped showing it. But it was a really fun experience to be able to like say I did that. And then the topper was I did a portrait of me standing with my 35 millimeter. I had like I was shooting digital. I was one of the first digital photographers there. So I had my old what was it? The 520, the Canon 520 thing. It was like, it was like 15 pounds. It's a huge camera with the 7200, and I kind of hung it over me, hung it, and I'm standing there like this. And for my going away party, somebody had grabbed the file and made a giant print, and they cut it out and put it on foam board. So like it was the cake topper for my going away, and I have it on my board in our kitchen. It's just traveled with me for 25 years. So it's like a forever memento of the good old days. And I was, much more fit back then. What happens over the years?
Okay, so now I asked you the craziest. Now, what was your biggest failure?
God, I'll let you know if I have one.
Oh, come on!
No, listen. I always tell people that, and I'm 100% honest about this. I can walk away from every shoot and tell you what I screwed up. And for me, and that's not like a false modesty or any kind of like ego thing. It's like
genuine.
I want to be constantly pushing, and I, without a hesitation, can tell you each thing I screwed up about each portrait that I've shot. And it's genuine. Like, I know, like, oh God, why didn't I move that so it's not coming out of his head? And oftentimes, and everybody who picks up a camera knows this, it's often something that we see because we were doing it. And you're like, oh, what an idiot. What? I could have just done this and cleaned it. And that happens all the time. It still does. I've been doing it 30 years. It still happens. Like, I'll still screw something up. Like, that's just reality. What bothers me about photographers is when they don't admit that. Like, give me a break. Like, come on. And I get this from a lot of veterans who are like, they'll talk about their work as if they're solving, cancer, and they had this like, you know, incredible moment and this and that. And I'm like, but did you like,
Did you?
look at the thing in the, but he's making the face and the, no, it's not it. You missed it. That close. One of my favorite editors, Sherman Zent.
Oh,
He was in Florida. He was at the Palm Beach Post. He worked as a photo editor on the weekend. So I did a summer internship at the Palm Beach Post. One of the most miserable times of my life, by the way. The summer in Florida, South Florida. Oh God, the worst. 2 showers a day. It was horrible. Anyway, Sherman's the weekend editor. I would come back. He'd say, "Hey, you don't have any assignments? Go find me weather art." Okay. And I would like go out and I'd do anything. I'd get on a boat. I shot like water skiers in the park, like everything. I would just try and experiment, have fun. I'd come back and I'd feel like, okay, I knocked it out of the park. I got a great one. Put the film down. This is film days, by the way. Put the film down. He's going through it. He's like, and this is his voice. Oh, damn. Oh, like every frame. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, really? So he finishes editing. He looks at me. He's like, yeah, it's not bad. He's like, you'll get it next time. Every time. And I, at the time, of course, I'm crushed and I'm feeling it like, oh my God, I thought I had it. Oh, it was the best.
yep.
Because that is how we should work. We should all recognize that even in your favorite picture, the Clint Eastwood shoot, one of my favorites all time. Not only, I mean, the subject obviously and the experience, but I'm using my 8x10. I've got the framing I wanted, but I look at it and I go, oh God, I could have just moved. And I will do that with every picture I take till the end of time.
Nice.
And I think it's important for photographers to realize, like, it's about the process, you know, my relationships with people, like the interactions. Now, editors, they want the perfect picture every time, and I get it, but you're always going to be, I think you should always be able to find a way to improve what you just did. And I think that's what keeps pushing me to keep in photography and keep moving and playing with new things and trying new things. So yeah, as far as mistakes, I mean, I have literally had them all. Great one. Perfect example. Jeff Bridges, right? That beautiful Type 55 portrait. That was the first time I shot him. I didn't know as much about his photography at the time. He's a big photographer. He's been shooting for fucking 40 years.
Yeah.
All of his things. So I shot that, worked with them, had a great time. And then afterwards, the publicists talked to me and they said, hey, he really liked working with you. You know, he's a photographer too, right? And I went, oh my God, I totally didn't. So the next time I shot him, I got prepared. I got a wide lux camera.
Yeah.
The camera he uses, right? And if you get his book, you'll see he does this series. It's the drama, the what do you call it?
Parallax.
No, the what do you call the faces, the drama masks, right? Of comedy and tragedy. So he did this series with that camera where he would shoot famous actors from his sets, where he would take the camera on an angle, and if you know the wide lux camera, it's a super like panoramic basically, and the shutter moves, right? It opens and then it pans, so you're exposing this long piece of film. So he would start on one side of their face where they'd be smiling, and then he would shoot it and he would move the camera, and then they would frown for the second half. And because you're moving it fast enough, like he literally goes like this, you get one half on each side of the film.
Oh, wow.
So I read all about it. I Googled, I figured, okay, I'm going to do this. I get the camera. I actually borrowed it. Where did I borrow it from? I can't remember. So I borrowed the camera. I load the film. Hadn't done it in years. Load the film, go. I talk to him. He's like, oh yeah, here's how you do it. He shows me how to do it. We do it. I get the film processed. I get it back, and it's like, it doesn't look right. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I realized I loaded the film wrong. You have to load it, and you have to get it precisely under the wheels.
Yeah.
Thing is taut against the plane where it's supposed to be, and I didn't do that. So my film was just like, here's the film plane, and my film was like sitting loose like this, so there was nothing sharp.
Oh.
And the exposure were a little off. Like it was just a comedy of errors in the whole thing. But man, was it an experience?
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm not going to load the film wrong again.
Never.
But make that mistake once.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that happens in lighting.
And to do it with Jeff, though, I mean, I would imagine there'd be nobody else who you'd ever want to fuck it up with more, right? Like,
Well, that's it.
what an experience.
The experience. And I had my book. I had my book with me, and he signed the book. It was a great.
I have that book. I have his 2 versions signed from him. I'm collector. So
That's awesome.
That's pretty brilliant, man. That's super brilliant. What a good fuck up. You know what I mean? Like in the best way.
It happens.
So before I get to my final 5, does anyone else have any more questions for Jay?
My last one was, who was your favorite San Jose State speaker that you saw that was a professional to you when you were there as a student?
God, we had some big names. Well, I'll give 2 that stood out to me. Yeah, we had a lot of good ones. So Gary Parker, he used to be a San Jose Mercury News photographer, and then he like went back east for a period of time, like lived a life there, and came back, and he was like on fire during the heyday of Silicon Valley, doing corporate work. And really beautiful, like color, like great portraits. And he had this like cool machine that he did. I don't even know what it was called. But it would pop different strobes at different times. There's a whole thing.
I remember him.
Something or other from Phoenix or whatever. Had that color wheel that would turn.
I think so. Yeah, it was really cool. But he did really great color portraits and really cool stuff. And he was a personality. And then Tom Kennedy from at the time he was at Geographic.
Not Geo editor, yeah.
Yeah, he had left Washington Post and he was at Geographic for a while. And what I liked about it, I can't remember anything from his presentation, because what I remember is we got him back to the house, to the photo apartment, and we got blotto drunk. And it was amazing. And what's funny is I just found the photos. I was like clearing out a bunch of stuff, and I found, at the time I worked at Discount Photo, which is right there on Third, whatever street that was. And I used to get all this stuff processed for, costs and all that. So we used to just shoot crazy amounts of film, and then I'd get stuff printed and all that. So I still have these packages of the film and the prints, and I have these awesome photos of Tom Kennedy like holding a beer up, and like our group photos, we're all holding beers. They're like shots on the light table that we had that Eric Gregorian's dad had built for us. So that was a good one.
Nice.
That was a fun one way back.
It's awesome.
All right. Does anyone else have any more questions?
What's Swozy doing? Did he log in and like forget how to use his phone?
I don't know. He's been awfully quiet though.
I don't know if he's there actually.
Well, he's there in spirit. Okay, we'll go with that. Okay, so these are my final 5 that I use on all the podcasts that I've tried and done. So I still like using them. It was inspired by. Well, I mean, we're gonna go back to Jim McNay used to always show us behind the actor studio.
Yep.
Like every I think every PJ1 photographer has seen at least 2 or 3 clips from behind the actor studio.
You're not gonna pull out a stack of cards, are you?
No. And actually, my final 5 is a whole lot shorter than his 10, but that's where it was inspired by. I'm telling you, like this whole podcast is very inspired by San Jose State, which I don't know. I hope it translates well to people in the East Coast and so on. But so my final five. Okay. So what is the motto that you use when you're out on assignment?
A motto that I use.
Or a mantra or a quote or something that you think of that kind of helps you puts you in the right state of mind.
I think in general, because this has come up a lot, especially with the layoff and everything, is I'm always thinking forward. Like I try not to go backwards and start thinking about what I could have done in the sense of of something being a mistake. I think, like I said, I screw something up on an assignment. It's like, oh, it kills me at the time, but you know what? I've learned. We're going forward. We're on to the next one. So I think that's kind of stuck with me to like always be moving forward with everything.
What is your favorite thing to hear?
Checks in the mail.
Yeah. We'll pay you whatever you want. No, I think I think again, it's anything that's in the affirmative about my ideas. Like I like when I can get somebody on board with what I'm thinking about, like in terms of the creative aspect of things, like the collaboration. I think that's always like gives you a little extra juice, You're coming up with it is great. Like I love brainstorming and having a list of ideas, and you always have to have a list because you're going to have to go through a few sometimes until one strikes. But I think that's it. When I get the affirmative, I think that's what keeps me going.
What is your favorite thing to see?
To see, I think laughter. I think it's always nice. Like, I mean, ideally it comes from something I've done, but I think getting people relaxed and laughing, I think in all aspects of life, I think is great. Like that's one of the best things. To hear my kid laugh, my wife laugh, a subject laugh. I think that's always fun.
What is your favorite word?
How about yes?
Sounds good. The last one is, what would you consider a perfect life?
Oh boy. It's kind of crazy because I feel like we make our lives. So I'm living it. I think I'd like to think I am. I mean, be great if my dad was still around, our parents are still around, that sort of stuff. But I think in general, like I've kind of lived it. I've had a great career. I'm not done yet. I've had a kid that's, healthy. We're kind of doing our thing. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. So before we go, how can people get a hold of you?
Are you paying or not paying?
Well, how can people see your work? How can people get a hold of you, whether you're paying or?
I think I'm just pushing JLC visuals. That's my thing. That's the website, jlcvisuals.com. That's the Instagram handle I'm pushing the majority of my work on. I think that's probably the easiest. I'm kind of off Twitter. It became a debacle. I was on it a ton, and then Elon kind of went off the deep end, and I stopped contributing. And then all of a sudden something happened and I couldn't get back in. And then I wrote and I'm like, hey, I was verified and everything. And I'm like, hey, I'm having trouble, and zero response, zero help. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm done. So I'm
next thing.
I'm back on to Threads and, trying to post on there when I can. And it is hard though. I will say I haven't latched onto Threads as much as I had on Twitter. I actually use Twitter a ton for news. Like, it was a great resource for keeping track of daily stuff and finding people. Like it really was helpful, but Threads, man, it's so tough. Like it's just not used the same way. So it's really been painful. So, but that's the best way.
Instagram for words.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Jay, I want to thank you for being our guest today, and for those who are tuning in to the YouTube channel, remember to head over to newwritermedia.com and you can sign up and be a part of our live Zoom audience for the next episodes or the next meetings. And you can also find the National Storytellers Night, the YouTube channel. Make sure you go like and subscribe and get the notification, all the stuff that you're supposed to do for that stuff. For all of us here, I want to say goodnight and thank you very much for watching.